you know?
Well, I needed attention and money, and I needed to do songs.
Yeah.
I have songs I've been blessed to be able to play.
Sly Stone was the creative force behind Sly and the Family Stone, the band that essentially invented funk music. He was the revolutionary genius who turned Woodstock into a celebration of unity and groove, creating music that brought people together across racial and cultural lines. Stone was known for his psychedelic outfits, infectious rhythms, and songs that preached messages of unity like Dance to the Music and Everyday People. However, behind the colorful stage presence and uplifting music, Stone allegedly harbored deep resentments and bitter grudges against many of his fellow musicians. These weren't just simple professional rivalries, but complex conflicts involving creative theft, racial politics, and personal betrayals that would ultimately shape the sound of popular music and contribute to Stone's own downward spiral. The Temptations. Old guard versus new innovation. The conflict between Sly Stone and the Temptations represented a fundamental clash between traditional soul music and the revolutionary new sound that Stone was creating. In the late 1960s, the Temptations embodied everything that Motown stood for: polished performances, choreographed perfection, and smooth, commercially appealing soul music. They were the epitome of the established order in African-American popular music. Stone, on the other hand, was creating something completely different. His integrated band featured both black and white musicians, and their sound was raw, political, and boundary-pushing. While the Temptations performed in matching suits with carefully rehearsed dance moves, Stone's group was loose, experimental, and unpredictable on stage. According to industry insiders, the tension began when members of the Temptations made dismissive comments about Stone's supposedly sloppy stage performances and unconventional musical arrangements. They reportedly viewed Stone's AP Sars as undisciplined and unprofessional compared to the Motown standard. Sources close to Stone claimed that he was furious about what he saw as resistance from the old guard of soul music, who were trying to hold back musical evolution. He allegedly called the Temptations museum pieces who were standing in the way of progress. The conflict became more personal during the height of the civil rights era, when both acts were competing for the same audiences and festival bookings. Stone allegedly felt that the Temptations' politically safe approach was actually harmful to the more revolutionary message he was trying to convey through his music. While Stone was addressing social issues head-on and challenging racial barriers through his integrated band, the Temptations maintained a more traditional, apolitical stance that avoided controversy. The breaking point in this rivalry reportedly came when Stone learned that members of the Temptations had been talking to music industry executives about his band's interracial lineup, suggesting that it was nothing more than a publicity gimmick rather than a genuine artistic statement. This deeply offended Stone, who saw his integrated band as a meaningful statement about racial unity and musical collaboration. He reportedly told friends that the Temptations were Uncle Toms in matching suits, suggesting that they were more concerned with commercial success and industry approval than with advancing the cause of African American music and culture. Santana, the battle for multicultural rock recognition. The rivalry between Sly Stone and Carlos Santana centered around the question of who deserved credit for revolutionizing rock music by incorporating diverse cultural influences. Both artists were pioneering new approaches to rock music in the late 1960s, but they were taking very different paths to get there. Stone was blending funk, rock, and soul with his racially integrated band, creating a sound that was both musically innovative and socially significant. Santana, meanwhile, was incorporating Latin rhythms, spiritual themes, and guitar-driven psychedelia into rock music, drawing from his Mexican heritage and interest in Eastern spirituality. Industry sources claimed that Stone felt Santana was receiving undeserved credit for musical innovations that he had actually pioneered first. Stone allegedly told friends that Santana's approach was nothing more than surface-level spirituality for white hippies who want to feel enlightened, while his own music was addressing real social and political issues that mattered to people's everyday lives. What made this rivalry particularly bitter was the way critics and festival organizers often compared the two acts. Many suggested that Santana's guitar-driven approach was more musically serious and sophisticated than Stone's funk-based experimentation. Stone reportedly resented this characterization, feeling that his songwriting abilities and production innovations were being overlooked in favor of flashy guitar work. The tension reached a peak when both bands performed at Woodstock, with Santana receiving massive critical acclaim for their performance. Sources close to Stone claimed that he felt Santana's success was built on exotic mysticism rather than genuine musical innovation, and that critics were responding to surface-level spirituality rather than deeper artistic achievement. The final break allegedly came when Santana made comments in interviews about the importance of consciousness and spirituality in music, which Stone interpreted as a criticism of his more party-oriented funk material. He reportedly told industry friends that Santana was preaching from a soapbox made of guitar solos, suggesting that the guitarist was using spiritual themes to mask a lack of real musical substance. The situation became even more painful for Stone when both bands were being considered for a major music festival, and promoters chose Santana because they were seen as more respectable and less likely to cause controversy. Stone allegedly told his management team that Santana represented sell-out spirituality for suburban seekers who wanted to feel enlightened without actually challenging themselves or society. Earth, Wind & Fire, commercial success versus artistic authenticity. The feud between Sly Stone and Earth, Wind & Fire represented one of the most personally painful conflicts for Stone because it involved what he saw as the commercialization and dilution of the funk sound he had pioneered. When Earth, Wind & Fire began achieving massive commercial success in the mid-1970s with their slick, highly produced approach to funk and soul music, Stone allegedly felt that they were stealing his musical innovations while removing everything that made them culturally and politically significant. While Stone had pioneered the funk sound with raw, experimental recordings that challenged both musical and social conventions, Earth, Wind & Fire was perfecting that sound for mainstream consumption. Their music was polished, sophisticated, and designed to appeal to the widest possible audience. Industry insiders claimed that Stone felt Maurice White and his band were turning revolution into Vegas entertainment, sanitizing funk music for audiences who couldn't handle its original political message. Stone was particularly resentful of Earth, Wind & Fire's spiritual and mystical imagery, which he saw as appropriating African cultural symbols without understanding their deeper meaning. He allegedly called their approach costume party consciousness for people who think incense equals enlightenment, suggesting that they were using spiritual themes as window dressing rather than expressing genuine spiritual or cultural understanding. The tension intensified when Earth, Wind & Fire began receiving critical acclaim and Grammy recognition that Stone felt should have gone to more authentic funk pioneers. He reportedly told industry friends that their success proved that audiences preferred fake depth over real innovation, and that the music industry was rewarding style over substance. The breaking point in this rivalry supposedly came when Stone learned that some of his former musicians had joined Earth, Wind & Fire's touring band, allegedly taking his musical arrangements and performance techniques to their new employer. Stone reportedly felt this was the ultimate betrayal, telling friends that Earth, Wind & Fire was stealing my sound with my own people. The most revealing incident in this feud allegedly occurred at a 1970s awards ceremony where both acts were nominated in similar categories. Witnesses claimed that Stone made pointed comments about bands that stake production value for artistic value, remarks that were widely interpreted as being directed at Earth, Wind & Fire's polished approach to funk music. Stone's alleged resentment toward the group represented his broader frustration with how the music industry commercialized and diluted the revolutionary potential of funk music. Led Zeppelin, cultural appropriation, and musical innovation. The rivalry between Sly Stone and Led Zeppelin was rooted in issues of cultural appropriation and the question of who deserved credit for musical innovation. The conflict allegedly began when Led Zeppelin started incorporating funk and blues elements into their heavy rock sound during the early 1970s. While Stone had been creating original fusions of rock, funk, and soul music, Zeppelin was taking existing musical forms created by African American artists and adapting them for predominantly white rock audiences. Industry sources claimed that Stone was particularly irritated by Led Zeppelin's approach to rhythm and groove, which he felt was a shallow imitation of the deep funk concepts he had pioneered. Stone allegedly told friends that Zeppelin was stealing black music and calling it innovation, reducing complex rhythmic concepts that had deep cultural roots to simple rock patterns that could be easily consumed by mainstream audiences. What made this feud particularly intense was Stone's belief that Led Zeppelin's massive commercial success was built on appropriating musical elements that black artists had created but weren't receiving proper credit or compensation for. He allegedly saw Zeppelin as representative of rock music's broader tendency to profit from black innovation without acknowledgement, a pattern that had been going on since the early days of rock and roll. The rivalry intensified when both bands were competing for festival headline spots and critical recognition as rock innovators. Stone allegedly resented that Zeppelin's guitar-heavy approach was being hailed as more serious and sophisticated than his funk innovations. He reportedly told industry friends that rock critics only respect black music when white bands play it, highlighting what he saw as the racial bias inherent in music journalism and criticism. The most damaging incident in this feud allegedly occurred when both bands were being considered for a major rock festival, and Stone learned that promoters had chosen Zeppelin because they were seen as more authentic rock performers. Stone reportedly told friends that this decision proved the music industry's racial bias, showing how the system rewarded appropriation over genuine innovation. Parliament, Funkadelic, the battle for funk supremacy. The rivalry between Sly Stone and George Clinton's Parliament Funkadelic was particularly painful because the two artists had initially been allies in the development of funk music. Both were pushing beyond traditional soul and R&B boundaries, creating new sounds that would influence generations of musicians. However, this alliance turned into bitter rivalry as Clinton's career ascended while Stone's became derailed by personal problems. The tension allegedly started when Parliament Funkadelic began achieving massive success in the mid-1970s, just as Stone's career was becoming increasingly unstable due to drug problems and erratic behavior. Industry sources claimed that Stone felt Clinton was capitalizing on the funk innovations that he had pioneered while he was struggling with personal demons and unable to maintain his career momentum. Sources close to Stone reported that he believed George Clinton was deliberately appropriating his musical concepts and stage presentation style. Stone allegedly told friends that Clinton was stealing my entire aesthetic and calling it their own invention, from the psychedelic imagery to the integrated band concept. He felt that Clinton was building his success on foundations that Stone had laid, without giving proper credit to the original innovator. The rivalry intensified when Clinton began being referred to as the godfather of funk in the music press, a title that Stone felt belonged to him as the original pioneer of the genre. Stone reportedly told industry friends that Clinton was rewriting history to make himself the hero of a story I started, suggesting that Clinton was deliberately obscuring Stone's role in creating funk music. The breaking point in this feud supposedly came when Stone learned that some of his former band members had joined Parliament Funkadelic, allegedly bringing his musical arrangements and songwriting techniques to Clinton's organization. Stone reportedly felt this was the ultimate betrayal, telling friends that Clinton was building an empire on my foundation, using Stone's own people and musical ideas. The ultimate betrayal. Sly and the family Stone. Perhaps the most tragic aspect of Sly Stone's story was that the band he allegedly hated most was his own group, Sly and the Family Stone. This self-destructive hatred reportedly destroyed one of music history's most innovative ensembles and explains Stone's eventual descent into paranoia and isolation from the music industry. While the world saw Sly and the Family Stone as a unified creative force that represented racial harmony and musical innovation, Stone allegedly came to view his own band members as enemies who were plotting against him and trying to steal his creative vision. The hatred allegedly started when Stone became increasingly paranoid about his band members' loyalty and financial motivations, convinced that they were more interested in profiting from his innovations than in supporting his artistic vision. Sources close to the group reported that Stone began to believe his family members and longtime collaborators were conspiring to control his career and finances. Industry insiders claimed that Stone became convinced his band was deliberately sabotaging his performances and recordings to make him look unreliable, which would allow them to take control of the group's direction and financial arrangements. The breaking point supposedly came when Stone learned that some family Stone members had been meeting with record label executives without his knowledge, allegedly discussing the group's future and their concerns about his increasingly erratic behavior. Stone reportedly interpreted this as the ultimate betrayal, telling friends that his own family was selling me out to the industry. The most devastating aspect of this self-hatred was how it destroyed Stone's ability to collaborate with anyone, leading to the complete breakdown of one of music's most innovative creative partnerships. His paranoia and resentment toward his own band members eventually forced him to withdraw from the music industry entirely, ending a career that had revolutionized popular music. The legacy of resentment. Sly Stone's alleged grudges and rivalries reveal the complex dynamics that shaped the development of funk and popular music in the 1960s and 1970s. These conflicts weren't just about personal animosity between musicians, but about larger issues of artistic authenticity, cultural appropriation, racial politics, and commercial success in the music industry. Stone's resentments, whether real or imagined, ultimately consumed him and destroyed the very relationships that had made his innovative music possible. His revolutionary genius came with a paranoid streak that made it impossible for him to maintain the collaborative relationships essential to creating and performing music. The man who had once brought people together through songs about unity and love became isolated by his own suspicions and hatred. These alleged feuds and betrayals help explain how one of music's most innovative artists went from being a cultural revolutionary to a reclusive figure who largely withdrew from the industry he had helped transform. Stone's story serves as both a testament to the power of musical innovation and a cautionary tale about how personal demons and industry pressures can destroy even the most talented artists.